So here we go again with my throat. Sorry about that. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. All right, so we're going to talk about the nature reality. This is a very famous painting. It's the five stages of reincarnation. And we're going to be talking about that because there's a lot of people that are... I wish people would give credit to where they're getting their information, because honestly, a lot of these content creators are. David Icke wrote a book called Dream. And he broke down the nature of reality, which I thought was brilliant. The way he broke it down, besides John Kehoe in Mind Power into the 21st Century, which he also broke down the holographic universe. Both of these guys are brilliant. There's another book that I'm going to be buying, and we're going to be reading it together, is a walk in the physical. Yeah, it's called Walk in the Physical by Christian Sternberg. And David Icke mentioned him. So let's talk about, and we're not going to talk about reality, because I think I'll buy the book and I'll read it, because the way he breaks it down is brilliant. And I don't want to paraphrase it or fuck it up, but I will tell you about the Loosh. And so what you've been seeing on TikTok and other platforms is this idea, don't go to the light. And they've simplified it to a multiple level that it's fear-mongering on multiple levels, massively. And unfortunately, David Icke is feeling as if we are in a spiritual AI, okay? So this is what he's saying. But I'm going to tell you how I feel and how I came to my own understanding not to incarnate unless I actually gave myself free will, and where that journey would come from. How did I come to the idea that I had a choice moving forward, and that I would not let guilt, dogma, fear, self-judgment, like absolutely cruel self-judgment, unfair self-judgment and things of that nature. And I'm still toggling with the idea that maybe we still need to, we needed to come to this point. Hence why everyone was talking about the ascension, for a good 2,000, probably more than that. Hence why everyone was talking about the ascension, for a good 2,000, probably more than that, probably 12, 13,000 years. On the edge when Atlantis was about to collapse. I'm sure there were oracles going, yeah, we're going to be fine. I mean, it's going to take a long time, but in human terms, but we're going to be fine. So there was a tipping point where, as I was doing my plant medicine, I was doing there was a tipping point where, as I was doing my plant medicine, I was doing 2018, 2019 is when I pursued my shaman's wisdoms to do the work. And I haven't done it since, by the way, because the work keeps going. It keeps working through you. I've felt the work, and I haven't done it since, by the way, because the work keeps going. It keeps working through you. I've felt no need to partake in anything since, okay, except for my little button things. How do I put that? Mushrooms. And I've done that. Last time I did that was in 2020. Just so it was a progression, right? There was definitely a progression. And in that, I realized one of the messages I got, which I think I shared with you in other lives, but I'll share with you again, unconditional love. And it's so funny because it's a t-shirt, right? It's a fucking, here's your Mickey Mouse ears, and unconditional love, kumbaya. But very few of us can master that, because we have to find pieces of ourselves that we can give unconditional love to. Find pieces of ourselves that we can give unconditional love to. And it usually starts from childhood, in my opinion. This is what I've found. So I have no problems giving unconditional love to my little baby girl, me, myself, and I, as a baby girl. I have no problems giving myself unconditional love as a 3-year-old. But that's when I literally pivot at the age of 10. And I can't tell you exactly why, okay? But I know that there's this, and I can't tell you exactly why, okay? But I know that there's this particular picture on my altar that I have a hard time putting and leaving on my altar, okay? But I have to, because like little 10-year-old girl, something happened. And she needs to know she's loved unconditionally. There are parts of me as an adult woman who so I'm working on this unconditional love. Why is this important? Well, because unconditional, when I met Pachamama in 2019, the last time I met her, she told me that was it. That was it. Unconditional love and the loop starts. Unconditional love and you come into Shambhala. And Shambhala is not, I believe, and I'm just going to read, I don't care what people think Shambhala is. I really actually, because I'm not taking it from that point of view, that dogmatic idea of heaven. That's not where I'm coming from. Shambhala, I'm using the word, I'm going to reformulate it. So you know, because when you look up Shambhala, when you type it up, you're going to see that what I'm saying has nothing to do with what Shambhala means. Shambhala is a state of consciousness where we come back to our original self. So it's not heaven. It's not heaven. It's stopping this fucking cycle. Do you see this? This is what you and I have been doing for hundreds of years. And many times we were having 5, 6, 7 incarnations in a 100-year period. And plus concurrent incarnations. So we've gathered a lot of data to come to a place where it comes to a very simple midpoint, which is self-love. That's it. That's that. And to master that is to master yourself. And it's not egoic. It's not narcissistic. It is the kind of unconditional love that few parents on the planet can give their children, because there's always conditions. Always. How are your grades? Make sure you got good grades. Make sure that you date the right person. There's always conditions, right? Let's be honest, okay, as parents. So it's something that is very confusing to people, because people like me have been like on this path for a long time. First, we had to, we believed in reincarnation. We remembered choosing our parents. We were surrounded by people who remembered past lives, things like that. So we had primers. We had like stages of development, kind of like learning how to speak, learning how to read, learning how to write your name, stages of development. Okay, but on a spiritual level. And so when David Icke talks about the Loosh, he's talking about complete manufactured world, spiritual AI. Is he wrong? No, I don't think he is, actually, to be honest. I don't think he's wrong. But what I do think is that he is, how do I put it? Because I really admire a lot of things he said. He's the reason why many people went off and became spiritual conspiracy theorists, just on the side note, just in case. If that knee-jerks you, I'm sorry, but that's what I'm going to call it. Because it means, why would they want to oppress a whole people? And how did they do it spiritually? Through religion. And why did they do it? What did they want from that? What were they gaining? What was the end goal? Okay, so many of us have been around other writers and spiritual philosophers and so on and so forth, and we've discerned and said, this is bullshit, this is good, this is crap, I love this feels right to me, for years. So what he's saying in his book Dream about this spiritual AI that entraps us in convincing us that we are imbued by unconditional love. And he calls us, yet he calls us the divine spark, which I totally agree. We are multidimensional like beings. We are the divine spark. And I think I explained it in my last life, where I said, there's always, even in your relationship that you started, your first love, this, that, and the other, there was the red flag and there was the green flag. And there was like multiple green flags and maybe baby red flags. But the point is the red flags were there. And you knew it all along, that there were going to be some problems, or it was not going to work out, or it was going to, trigger you, or some shit was going to go down. Very rarely have we gone into relationships where there wasn't a red flag to the green flags. So maybe one red flag to the 4 green flags. I'll put it that way. Why? Well, because we're all connected through karmic loops that we haven't mastered. And how do you master it? You forgive yourself, you forgive others, and you give yourself unconditional love. Yourself first. You put the mask on your face first. You give yourself the oxygen first. At that point, then you can go ahead and move on to share the wealth of this incredible power to master unconditional love for the self. Why is it important? Because it's the 100 monkey theory. It's the domino effect. So I remember, and I'm going to get personal here, okay? I remember when my mom was on her deathbed, okay? And I was saying to her, you've got to forgive yourself. You've got to do this. You've got to forgive others. I'm just going to say, and I have a picture of her at the feet of her bed. She was in my house. Of her, it was a little 3-year-old girl. And to the right side, a little catty corner, was an incredible, beautiful painting of a divine couple. Okay? And I kept saying, forgive, and trying to figure out where this fear came from, because she was fear-filled throughout her incarnation. It was the weirdest thing. Just always cautious. And because she was so cautious, she made moves that were based on fear. And when you make decisions based on fear, you're going to fuck up. Period. End of story. You're going to fuck up. It may take you a year before you see the fuckery, but you will. And so she actually nailed it. She actually understood why. And I'm going to tell you why. She was born in 1939 in Paris, France, and the war had just erupted. Okay? And we had the Nazis coming in and took over Paris. Okay? So they would have sirens going on, and at night they would go down into the metros. I don't know if you've ever been to the Parisian metros, but those metros are old as fuck. And she would go down with these other adults, and all she felt and heard was fear, crying, wailing, and the energy was thick with fear. So she sponged it up being a child. And she nailed it. I know exactly why and she told me this story. And I said, great, you got it. Now forgive yourself and forgive others. Forgive yourself of anything you think you've done. I forgive you. You forgive me. We're good. Now look at that painting and start co-creating the life you want with a divine, masculine, and all the good things you want to experience and the kind of children you want to have, and just go for it. That was the gift she gave herself. Did she have to go back into 3D? Depending on her frequency match, maybe not. Maybe she would go into a place like Earth, which was on 5D, or maybe she will wait until this planet is into 5D to come in. Okay? So what David Icke is talking about, the loosh, is really, you guys need to understand, you have, the only way you can be empowered and be the divine spark, in my humble opinion, because I'm sharing with you my downloads right now as we speak, downloads, aha moments, fucking, divine guidance, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. But what I do know is it feels really certain, because I've been toggling with this idea for a good 10 years. I said, this is bullshit. I know we don't have to come back in this shit show. I fucking know it. I don't know how we got to get out of here, but I know we can. And this was before people were coming up with Prison Planet and all kinds of bullshit like that. Okay? So, actually, 11 years ago. So, what I'm going to say, and the way I feel, is that the minute you master unconditional self-love to yourself, and I'm going to be blunt, some of you are going to have to do plant, with the right shamans, okay? Hopefully you heard that in between the lines as I muffled it with my, swallowing those words. But hopefully you got what I just said. You've got to find a really good shaman. Some of you got to be honest with yourself. I can't tell you what to do. I don't know who the fuck you are, most of you, okay? No offense. God bless you. But I don't know who you are. There are some of you who actually don't need this at all. All you need to do to jack yourself out of the fucking matrix of this virus, it's no different than a virus in a computer, is to master the shit, and you have it in you to do it. Some of you, no offense, you need to fucking blow your concept of reality, because you're still dogmatically entrenched in this bullshit. You really are. And so you need to ask yourself, what is it? For me, to be honest, I was looping in massive depression about 11 years ago. Massive depression. Even though I was in union with my twin, which showed me that even you could be in union with your twin, even though, you would have thought it was nectar. No, because the human soul ultimately is individually having its experience, whether you're in bed with your twin or not. Does that make sense? And that's when I realized a lot of things about the twin flame journey that some of you will eventually maybe have to experience, or hopefully not. I hope that when people like me tell you about these kinds of journeys, realities, concepts, reincarnation within your own autonomy, true autonomy can't come from will alone. It has to come from divine unconditional love to yourself. That's the truth that I'm finally starting to realize. It's one thing to realize it, it's another to master it. And the mastery of it is to look in the mirror and go that whatever I see in front of me is a temporary vessel. It's an illusion. It is an example of karmic debt, trauma, grief, joy, life, and the fuckery, and it's almost like you are, imagine like a coat hanger, and from this wired hanger you form it into a shape, and from that you start slapping clay on it, and this clay is formed by where your mind is at the time of the construction of this figurine, for example. And so for me, going back to the loosh is only going to happen to souls, to the divine spark, as he puts it. I call it, the multidimensional light being, is only going to happen if you really don't think you're worth shit. If you have massive regret, if you want to right the wrongs and you want to run back and right the wrongs. And unfortunately, if you're in a very low frequency, depression, regret, self-loathing, you are going to loosh back, in other words, reincarnate back into a frequency that matches that frequency. And that's fucked up. That's fucked up because I know many of you don't deserve that. They don't. We're not talking about serial, Killer. We're not talking about some of these, and when I say that word that I just spelled out, I mean not just people on the boots on the ground out there, right? But I'm talking about people who are in making situations and making decisions that may not have BLOOD on their hands, but they're signing in ink, right? Decisions that harm hundreds of thousands of people. So the accusations of the serial K is the same, in my humble opinion, because I don't care if you did it yourself or if you're writing out fucking decisions and you're making laws that harm people. You're no better than the person doing it. It's fucking decisions and you're making laws that harm people. You're no better than the person doing it. It's one of the things I find revolting about the show Dexter. I'm going to be very blunt. There's no right to that, no matter how you slice it. This is something Anne Rice tackled with Lestat, the vampire Lestat, where he would go after fucked up people, right? And as if that's making it okay. Karma is karma. When you harm anyone, you're taking on karma. That's it, that's that. And so the prison planet delusion game is based on the fact that when these types of people drop their bodies, they are given a life review. And I believe that most souls are good. Every blue moon, sure, you've got some souls that are, well, I mean, we have evidence of that. We've got draconians and reptilians and little grays that don't give a shit, that are like flatliners and whatever, and you can call them whatever you want. But there is like either no soul, no spark, no divine light, no loving energy, right? So there are souls out here, really, in incarnated states of the human experience, who are definitely representing that. But we're talking about people who are so harmed that they become harmful to other people. Kind of like when you abuse a dog, like, some dogs are still going to lick your hand and some dogs will fucking attack you and go rabbit on you, right? Okay, so it's the same kind of premise. But ultimately, souls are good, okay, in my opinion. And so once they see a life review of the fuckery they did, thinking, they were so great, making $6.5 million a year and making decisions that would harm people. And they didn't give a shit because the stockholders are happy and you're a hero today. That kind of shit. When you do a life review on that, no shit, you're fucking coming back. Because you as a soul is going to realize, I fucked up, I was an asshole. It's kind of like Ebenezer Scrooge in the Christmas Carol. He goes from being a miserly piece of shit, 3 ghosts come in, and he's a completely fucking different man 8 hours later or 9 hours later. It's interesting how we keep talking about it through our fables and stories and through our urban legends and through our newspapers when we see a crime's committed, right? And the reasoning behind it and all that shit. So ultimately, the loosh, okay, is multiple fold. But the main thing you need to walk away, you personally, is that you need to realize that when you have unconditional love to yourself, when you master that, there's a couple things that are going to happen. First of all, you're in a high frequency, number one. Number two, you're going to go through a sense of powerful autonomy, because you're a divine spark. I love that term. You are going to get true information in your outer body as to what you want to experience and what you can experience. One of the things David Icke says, and he's correct, is that they need your agreement to come back. They need you to agree. They need you to say, yes, I fucked up, life review, I feel like shit, let me come back and redo it. Let me have the same family, soul family, let me do it all over again, and hopefully this time I won't harm people, or they won't harm me. I'll be the sacrificial lamb, they won't harm me. And I agree with that point. And to be honest with you, I'm halfway in the book, but I wanted to tell you where Loosh came. It came from him, and people like him. And these content creators are not, I get really pissed off because when I find something, I tell you what source. I've sourced it from this and that and the other. So the Christian Sternberg book that I want to read to you is about how we feel and how we felt when we fell. That has fascinated me for a while, doing the Akashic readings on different people. It has fascinated me because some of us wanted to fall. Some of us, it just happened. Some of us, I'm thinking of all the Akashic readings I've done and all the various ways it presented itself. And so this guy Sternberg is writing about how he fell. But what I do know is that we can return back to our homes, multiple homes. And this concept that the spiritual realities are controlled by a spiritual AI, I feel for some of the evil that we're seeing on this planet, and some of the things people like me have studied for a long time, like 25 years, on the concept. Some of the things people like me have studied for a long time, like 25 years, on the concept of how evil was, in other words, the pain and the suffering of people was being mined for energy by other entities. That was not a new idea for me. But I was trying to figure out who, why, when did it start? Okay? And so this is why I read books, to various authors, and I may not agree with everything they have to say, but they give you ideas, right, to toggle with. This is why you don't get turned on by every author. Like, there's certain people like who I read, I'm like, what are you, 12? I mean, what the fuck is this? This has been done in the 1800s, right? I'm like, you're regurgitating shit from an 1800 book, and I've seen that. I've read certain books, I'm like, I can't. This is dumb. But there are beautiful minds right now that are really trying to break us out of this matrix. And there's no doubt it's a matrix. There's no doubt. There's no doubt that it is ending. There's no doubt of that either. But I think that when you go into your meditations, when like Farrell, for example, when Harold's was fasting for 40 days, and it actually became viral, his videos, and he was doing it for spiritual reasons, and he's connected to Jesus, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, and he did what Buddha also did, not just Yeshua, but also Buddha and multiple other great avatars. There's something about fasting, for example, and it is almost like an exorcism to do it, honestly. And that's why most people live alone, or they set themselves up in, like I said to you before, Dr. Braggs used to have a fasting chalet, a cabin, and he'd go up there for 10 days and he'd do it every 3 months. But what was interesting is that Harold's fasting was inferring some massive spiritual awakening. Does that make sense? Oh, because I'm talking about fasting now. It's live restricted audience. I'm just letting you know what TikTok is doing. Live restricted audience because I'm talking about fasting. Okay. But let me talk about anything else. Let me show you my, boobs and jump up and down, and we're good. I'll have 100,000. It's amazing. You got to realize, I get pissed off. The Matrix is always controlling our language. This is why we're using the word grape for you know what. This is why we're using the word unaliving for you know what. When we are being controlled by our language, study the importance of words. This is why people use the word cult freely. Like, oh yeah, it's a cult. Like Twin Flames is a cult. It's like, do you even know what the fuck a cult is? Do you actually know what it is? It means you can't leave it. It means you've been so programmed in a Stockholm syndrome that you cannot leave the cult. Which brings me back to David Icke. He talks about reincarnation, and spirituality. It doesn't matter what religion, no religion, this religion, half of religion, it doesn't matter. That there is a cult concept, like a Stockholm syndrome, to the concept of reincarnation, when New Agers and spiritualists say, oh, you want to develop as a soul. Yes, I agree. But at some point, you don't want to keep repeating fucking first grade for fucking 6,000 years. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's where we're getting at. We're getting to a point where we're saying, I've done first grade for 6,000 years. I'm done now. Thank you. I'm graduating myself. Yeah, like you don't have anything to say about it. And the minute you have this unconditional love, you have unconditional trust, unconditional support. You've now manifested yourself out of the loosh. I believe that. I think ultimately that's what he's getting at. But he has to break down the concept of what the loosh is, which is this concept of farming the energy of people, human beings, like you would farm chickens, honestly. And do I believe that? I think for some people that was a reality. I think for some people it was not. So let me reword people to soul, sentient beings. Some sentient beings, aka the divine spark, did not have to go through this. I know of one client I did in Akashic. She actually fell 3,000 years ago, not so long ago at all. And she fell because fear was, and I talked about it before, fear was ran through her body as she was being torn from limb to limb. And I don't want to get into the details of that, but suffice it to say she was a starseed coming to help human beings who were barbaric. And fear came out of nowhere. She'd never felt it before, ever. So when you feel fear, when you feel despair, self-loathing, regret, shame, these are looshes. These are loops, what we call loops. And we have looped into them. And these Orthodox religions have cemented those very dark energies, like imagine like cementing chains around your root chakra, sacral and Herat chakra. It's disgusting. And so as we go through one incarnation to the next, as you can see with this image, we are... And so as we go through one incarnation to the next, as you can see with this image, we are programmed. We are programmed by habit. I mean, look, it's not hard to understand. If I start programming myself to intermittent fast, to go power walking for an hour a day, to X, Y, and Z, do you understand? I've programmed myself. Does that make sense? So habit, good or bad, are part of your daily habit. And I think Dr. Joe Dispenza says it becomes a behavior when it lasts more than a year or something like that. And then it becomes your personality, right? So if I correctly paraphrase that, it's been a while since I read that particular piece that he wrote, which I thought was brilliant. So when you're reading from people, right? I mean, like I'm sure I'm going to be reading from Sternberg and I'll read out loud. And sometimes you've heard me read in lives where I'll go, wait, hang on, I don't agree with that. I'll stop in the middle and go, I don't agree with that. That doesn't resonate with me at all. And I'll explain why. And to me, that's the purpose of why I read to you guys, to give you a sense of it's okay to disagree with someone and then to understand why you're disagreeing it so you can express it to yourself or others. But if you've noticed, and then I would continue reading. So there are some dogmatic philosophies, ideas that have been pushed by the New Age community, which is why I've stepped away. But it's not a cult, and I'll tell you why. It's not a cult unless you are in a cult. A cult is a leader. It's led by one or two leaders, typically one, but okay, maybe two, maybe three, but let's move on. And then from there, you do whatever the fuck they say. If they tell you to marry this person, you marry this person. If they tell you to divorce a person, you divorce the person. If they tell you, give me all your wealth, which is what Osho did, which that's why I can't stand him being quoted. I cannot stand that man. He had everyone giving them their entire possessions. That's a cult. He had over 36 Rolls Royces or something like that. One that was gold plated. Okay? That's not a spiritual person. I'm sorry. You don't see Dr. Joe Dispenza, Michael Singer, Michael Newton when he was alive running around with fucking gold-plated sports cars, okay? What they were talking about was just, here are some ideas. Here are some things that we've gathered. Here is some wisdoms for you. Here are ancient wisdoms we've forgotten. And it's been cataloged under New Age, all of it. And it's actually an insult because it's not New Age. It's not at all. Ancient wisdom is something that we are remembering. Lost stories, wisdoms, processes, healing modalities that we forgot. This concept of amnesia, which he talks about, David Icke talks about, many of us throughout these centuries did not forget. We were born remembering. In fact, some of us remembered exactly why we were here. Except the outside environment was not a match to what our light spark was about. And we were harmed. Or we were shut down. We had to shut down. So this loosh that everyone wants to, oh my God, what do I do? Don't go to the light, don't go to there. I would say if you've done your work, right, you will be propelled like a magnet to your frequency match. And of course, unconditional divine self-love is going to be what you master, which will catapult everything else to your benefit, obviously. Once you know how to do that, you're good to go. You should die surrendering, trusting, knowing that you've mastered unconditional self-love, which is a hell of a flex. That is one hell of a thing to master, let me just say. That is incredible. It means that you know who you are, you care and love for yourself, you advocate for yourself with compassion, and you have compassion for others because you know that, very much like I would say Yeshua had divine unconditional love for himself and also mercy for others who were foolish, egoically, toxic. I mean, even his apostles were kind of fucked up. Sorry. And so far, I've yet to see a dogmatic religion that has, in the Western world, let me put it that way, Western world, Middle East, that have given us what we really need. The concept of free will and fate has also always fascinated me. And I've come to, there's a certain point in your life where you start realizing how it plays out. And you always have free will, you always do, but some things are fated. Some things you can't change no matter how you manifest. It's not your failure. It just is. He talks about, David was talking about the Akashic records as something that was made up or controlled or whatever by spiritual AI. And I would say to you that I don't believe that. I do not believe it. I think that spiritual AI or whatever he wants to call it manipulates the information to their own advantage on some aspects. But if they're dealing with sentient beings, right, divine sparks who hate themselves, who've dealt with addictions when they were in the human experience, who've dealt with harming other people and themselves, things like that, it's not going to be hard to manipulate a human being. Like hell, you can manipulate a human being like that right here, right now, from one human to another. Haven't we seen that? We've seen that with false prophets, false gurus. So it's not hard to see how that's possible. Because when you have unconditional self-love, or at least self-respect, maybe you should start with self-respect. I'll tell you why. I don't take any fucking disrespect from people at all. I have zero tolerance. I had a client, or supposed client yesterday asking, well, I mean, can you tell me if I have a twin flame? This is on, not even on text, this is on email. And I said, I can't know until I do a reading. Well, how could I fucking know, right? And she went, well, I just won't do a reading unless you can tell me if I have a twin. And I'm like, we're good. Enjoy your life. Blessings to you. I didn't want to deal with her. Because twin flame is not a fucking Birkin bag. It's not a Rolex watch. It's not an accessory. I have zero tolerance. And it was the tone in that email, in that one sentence. Well, tell me. And I'm like, no, we're done. Done. You don't come to a spiritual person or any human being, dog, cat, horse, pig, with disrespect. If you come in with an arrogant, disrespectful nature, you will be fucking slapped down. Period. When the sentient being has, at the very minimum, self-respect, which I have. Unconditional self-respect. Self-love, I'm mastering. I'm hoping to master before I drop my body. Clearly, that's what I've been talking about. So when my twin was on his deathbed, I made sure to tell him, don't come back. Do not come back. You have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive me. You have to forgive everyone who harmed you when you were a little boy. You have to, you don't have to tell me. Just, you know what to do. And you have to give yourself unconditional self-love. That was the dialogue for 90 days. Besides other things. But that was the dialogue. I wanted to brainwash him out of his brainwashing. Out of the dogma of Catholicism, out of the dogma of some of the Ishkan things that were happening in the Ishkan temples. Shit like that. And I remember watching that painting when I was 18 years old. I don't think it's that exact painting, but it's got the same, this painting's been done again and again, this theme, this basic theme of Dharma. And the New Age community will tell you, oh, but you got to come back, because you... And I agree with David Icke. I agree with him. He's saying it's bullshit. I agree with him. It is bullshit. It is bullshit. You can learn everything you need to learn in one incarnation. You really can. A lot of it. You know what is wrong and you know what is right. To fuck someone else's husband is bad. To fuck someone else's wife is bad. To go rob a bank and harm people is wrong. You know that to backstab someone, to talk shit about someone is wrong. You know that to take someone's life is wrong. It's really a basic shit. It's not difficult to fucking master. It's called, moral values. And so when you have those, and you've already mastered, haven't you mastered them? How many of you guys are going around harming people? There's a movie by Clint Eastwood called The Unforgiven. Great Western, one of the best Westerns I've ever seen. Unforgiven by Clint Eastwood. It directed it and he was in it. And I loved it because he talks about this little snotty ass little blonde boy that's just full of piss and vinegar wants to take a life. And finally he does. And he says it's a hell of a thing to take a man's life because you've taken everything he's got. Everything he'll ever be and everything he ever was. And yet we've convinced people this is a flex. And the people that can live with themselves, with that behind them, there's kind of something wrong with them. And I don't want to go into too much of the psychology of people who do it, whether it's under the guise of war or other whatever reasons, but I will say this. Most people I've met that have a heart fucking regret it. In fact, they're having a really hard time forgiving themselves. Most people who've done it, they talk about it like, I just bought a pair of boots. They're really disconnected from their heart chakra. They have to become that kind of human being. You have to close off a lot of chakras. You have no choice. So if you're not any of these things, right, then, or if you've done these things and you regret it, forgive yourself. You must forgive yourself for you to be able to, and that's all you have to do because you've learned the lesson. David Icke making a point. He has some good points. He said, why would we have to repeat the cycle again and again and again, which is a New Age toxic proposition. I agree with him. Forgive yourself. Are you that person? No, you're not that fucking person today. Just like me at 14, I'm not that person today. Me in a past life, I'm not that person today at all. So far from it, it's like, it's not even I can't even recognize it as a past life. It's that far away from my consciousness. It's that removed from who I am today. There are things that I said, as a kid, as a teenager, that I'm horrified, and they're not egregious shit, but horrified, and yet I forgive. I let go. This is not who I am. And that's really it. If we keep clinging to the shame of I must right the wrongs, and by right I will sacrifice myself on the pillars of a new incarnation on 3D. I will force myself. Maybe I can save people. I can come in and I can be like Mad Max. I'd say, what are you doing? So maybe I can save people. I can come in and I can be like Mad Max. I'd say, what are you doing? You're not helping the evolution of the planet by sacrificing yourself. You're better off actually forgiving yourself and ascending, and your ascension will become a domino effect to the many others who you'll never meet. You're better off doing that. And so that's the journey of our ascension, is to realize there is a Loosh. He's not, I believe him 100%. It's the idea that we do have guides. There is a galactic council. There are avatars. There are gurus on the higher planes. And they will appear. Some will be corrupted. I remember sitting in a meditation about right before my mother died. So I think it was like 3 years ago. And this guide came to me in a very beautiful place, but faceless. And I was like, what the fuck? And there was the question mark. Remember green flags, one red flag? Yeah, that was the red flag. No face. And I was like, huh. Okay. And then the next one came in. And I knew it was dark when the sky was black, and though the waves were full of color, and there was a beautiful unicorn horse. I'm not joking. Believe me, this was sober. We're talking about totally fucking meditation, okay? And unicorn horse. I'm not joking. Believe me, this was sober. We're talking about totally fucking meditation, okay? And I'm riding this horse, and there's this face, and I went, yeah, and I went, game over. Boom, and I stopped it. I opened my eyes, took some breaths, and I realized I had a corrupted guide. Meaning a piece of shit guide, a Loosh guide, whatever you want to call it. Let's call it a Loosh guide from the Loosh system, from the Matrix. And I was done. And I waited. I continued my meditation on the daily and called into the original guide I'd first met. And I was back on track. It happens to all of us, okay? It's not a failure. It's, again, heart chakra, spiritual discernment. You're not failing. You're learning how to smell the truth and smell the bullshit. And so, and the sad part, with what I've just described to you, do you know what happens to most people in the spiritual community? I'm going to call it New Age, and it's not a fucking compliment. In the New Age community, people will go, this is what you've seen with Doreen Virtue. I've seen content creators go, I went back to Jesus. Oh my God. And they're not talking about Yeshua. They're talking about Jesus, the one, trained and shoved down our throats from the Orthodox Catholicism, with a wonderful history of human intervention and human justice, right? I'm being sarcastic. But you're looking at people running back to the Orthodox toxic teachings, because they'll have those experiences like I did. And instead of shutting up going, well, that was a hell of a that was a fucking, wow, hello, I'm back, I'm better than ever. They went right back to their, what I'm calling the cave of ignorance. Because it's comfy there. It's comfy, I know this I know. Well, yeah, but you've been brainwashed, you realize that, right? And they don't. So, any questions? I haven't been looking down at all because I didn't want to get distracted, but any questions whatsoever? Greetings, I love this, I think. Hang on, let me see. Greetings, I love this. I think I have dropped self-loathing and it comes back. Cycle needs to end. You just got to work on yourself, my dear. You just got to, it's not easy. Self-loathing is a bitch, my friend. It is a bitch. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of judgment. And there's a couple things you're fighting. One is the goodness of your soul. Because when a sentient being, the divine spark, is good, which makes you a divine spark because you're good, you're fundamentally a good person, right? You're going to actually feel like you're not worthy because you're humble. But this type of humbleness, humility, is actually just as toxic as arrogance, which I love because it's a really true concept. You can be too arrogant, at which point you're a narcissist, or you can be so humble you're a fucking welcome mat, and you're also toxic to yourself and other people because you there's no backbone in that. But with that said, You have to ask yourself, am I that person now? Could I do that again? And that needs to be, you know, honored. Yes, I'm not that. I'm just not that person. Okay? I'm not that person. That's not who I am at all. And circumstances may have conditioned me to retaliate like that. Have you heard of supposedly bad horses? And they're like, they're very violent. And the next scene you see of a horse rescue person saying, this horse was going to take to the meat market, right, to Mexico. And this horse is the fucking best horse I've ever had in my life. Gentle as fuck. Comes when I ride. It's like a dog. If somebody was beating the fuck out of you constantly, you'd probably be mean too, and rabbits, and you'd attack people who came near you. That's like it's almost like self-respect. It's like saying, you're not touching me again. You've whipped me enough. Like, if you want to whip me again, I will fucking fight you tooth and nail. Well, I mean, I would say that's normal. It's you're protecting yourself. You're defending yourself. But, you know, and when you were a little child and things were happening to you here and there, some good defending yourself. But, you know, and when you were a little child and things were happening to you here and there, some good, some not so good, it would have created something in you, including shame, because of the confusion of the situations. And then, why didn't you say anything sooner? It's like, because I knew you would actually react like that. As a kid, I knew you'd react like that. There are parents out there that just, the word parents is a joke. It's the wrong label. So depending on what it is that you're fighting, you need to like do an inventory of your life. You know, do your own life. Review. Do it now. Why wait till you die? Do it now. Do a life review and go, where did I fuck up? Who did I fuck over? And what were my beginnings? Who harmed me? And let me go ahead and make a list and start forgiving these people and forgiving myself and forgiving, and back and forth until it feels true to me. And it's because we're good souls. We are. It's going to be a journey. It could take a year of you doing Ho'oponopono to yourself every day. You know, until one day you look up going, holy shit, I feel good. Wow. Whatever this was, it's gone. It's like a storm that lasted a year that finally passed. And so the loosh is real. I totally agree. I do agree that there are two types of spiritual realities. I totally agree. But I also know, and I know this for a fact, that, and when I say I know this for a fact, it's what I call the unspoken knowing. Okay? It's just I know like I know. And so this concept of the unspoken knowing is based on the energetic frequency that is true. If you're mastering all the things I've already discussed, you are not a frequency match to matrix systems. You are catapulted into the truest sense of the spiritual reality of your new experiences on other planets, catapulted into the truest sense of the spiritual reality of your new experiences on other planets, on other frequencies that are high, that match your frequency. You are no longer in 3D. You don't die in 3D. You're not dead in 3D. Does that make sense? If you're dead in 3D, you're damn right you're looping back into the matrix. Of course you are. You're in 3D still. Doesn't that make sense? And there's nothing cultish about it. I think what's happening for me, and the reason why I've made massive distance between the New Age and what I've coined ancient wisdom, is the fact that I know that New Age perpetuates bullshit and is not growing up. I used to be part of the New Age. I was New Age. I was studying reincarnation and hypnotherapy and multiple personality disorders, like Sybil, all kinds of shit like that, right? I was reading all kinds of shit, reading, thinking, discussing, but eventually I kind of was asking more esoteric questions that couldn't be answered. Oh, well, mirror yourself. Just mirror yourself. Why do I have to mirror me? This person's an asshole. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't deserve that at all. No, there's nothing wrong with me in that. So it's okay to have moral outrage. I mean, and sometimes, like with my twin, yes, he was mirroring my mother wound and father wound. Absolutely. No doubt about it. But sometimes he was mirroring my mother wound and father wound. Absolutely. No doubt about it. But sometimes there was nothing more than advocate for yourself, Tony. This person's a fucking asshole. That's it, and that's that. Game over. And that's why I don't like the mirror work. The mirror work to me shows me a content creator or a guru. I'm going to call it a guru, meaning not a guru, not far from it, who can't answer your fucking questions. So they'll say, the mirror. If I ever, this is why I don't go to talks, because I'll probably laugh in the background. I'll be in the back, all the way in the back. Typically, I like being in the front. I'm always the person on the front, like a good little girl, taking my notes, But if I ever, I can't go to, I don't want to disrespect people. I'm not here to shame anyone I'll probably fucking pee in my pants laughing so hard. I'm not kidding. Because I'll listen to the mirror, and if I hear anyone say the mirror with, 100, oh yes, the mirror, yes, and everyone clapping and tittering with laughter with I know more than you, little soul. I mean, I can't play those games. I just can't. It makes me sick. To me, it's like Arthur's round table. We all sit in a circle and we all talk, and we're all fucking equal. And some of us remember more than the others. It doesn't make you better. It just makes it, you just remember more. And that can become the catapult, the domino effect to make people go, oh my God, yes, I remember too. That's exciting. One of the things we've been talking about in my little group, my little sisterhood group with Andromeda Flame, is how we used to have, everyone's different, but how I used to have flying dreams, and there were two men in black. I kid you not. I don't mean two men in black in the fucking movie, because you can't find that information anywhere, but two men, or two, you all know, they look masculine energy, no face, black hats, black trench coats down to their ankles. You all know they look masculine energy, no face, black hats, black trench coats down to their ankles, down to their knees, right? A little below their kneecap. And I would fly away from them. They could never fly after me. But I was haunted by those dreams. Those dreams lasted my first 17 years of my incarnation. And one day, a client came to me saying she had this, and she didn't know my experience. And I went, wait a minute, hang on, what? And she told me again that she was having, it was one person in black. And I proceeded to tell her my story. And then suddenly I spoke to two other people. I just brought it up out of fucking nowhere. I was like, random, but has this happened to you? And they were like, oh my God, yes. So it was interesting how we started remembering and realizing that there was a common trauma in dreams, right? We were flying, or we were doing whatever. We were good. We were astral, going to other realms, and here was these entities, and I realized that it meant that some of us as souls were very, I'm not kissing our own ass, we're very powerful. We were going to help people remember their power as well, equally to ours. And because they knew we were coming in, which is the matrix spiritual AI, they were coming in to instill massive fear. They love to instill fear in children. Love it. And I remember waking up. Sometimes it was almost like the silver cord slamming back into my body, like it was tugged back into my body. And I remember the bottoms of my feet shaking. So a massive fear. And now I look back on it, and it was all to program us to delay or to prevent our ability to ascend and to help others do the same. So I'm not sure if any of you, if this sounds familiar, but if it is, my God, if I upload this, do you agree with the concept of parenting ourselves? Absolutely. You better. Because if you don't, you're going to have a lot of deficits, things that you didn't feel were fulfilled, and you will be howling for someone to give it to you, and you better do it yourself. Thank you for sharing, listening while working. Thank you. Absolutely. Do you agree? Okay, so being our own parent to our inner child to heal our wounds. Absolutely, 100%. I tell people to do that all the time. I do, actually. I never liked mirror work either. It didn't resonate with me. Very familiar with the black entities. That's fucked up. But you're not alone. And I think I've mentioned it before, where, including me, 5 people. 5 people have all confirmed on this and it is a problem. So when you have your kids, grandkids, make sure you ask, so, When you have dreams, ask, do you have flying dreams? What kind of dreams do you have? Ask them. Do you see anything else in your front? Like, ask them. Ask them, because you can cut it off of the past. You can say, oh yeah, you know what you're going to do? You're going to do this exercise, little Janie or little Bobby. You're going to do this little exercise, and then they will go away. And you might even, which we talked about with our little group, is saging a child's room, saging them, and at night, the four corners above and below. Fuck it, you're not coming in. Fuck you. You know, I mean, I'm sorry. I want to protect the starseeds coming in. Because all of us as starseeds who are interested in these, trust me, that's what, we're all homesick, trust me on that one too. And we're not coming back into 3D planet Earth. We're not. If you're a match, excuse me, I'm still getting over the cold. If you're a match to 5D, 6D, 7D, as long as you're looping into 3D, yes, I hate to say it, yeah, people like that are coming back. There's no... It doesn't matter how nice they are. It really doesn't. It's not about how nice you are. It's about how you feel and your emotions. When I read to you guys from Mind Power into the 21st Century, the holographic universe, and how it manifests what you want based on your emotions. So if you're always in fear, you're going to co-create shit you don't want, because fear is as potent. Fear is as potent as joy. And I would say, and I'm actually going to say, I think it's almost more potent than joy. That's the scary part. I mean, I hate to say it like that. I'm not trying to be funny, but it is potent, fear. And that's why mantras, this is why we do mantras. And David Icke talks shit about mantras, and he talks shit about, and I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love David Icke. A lot of the shit, he has gone through hell being the spiritual conspiracy theorist that he is. He has been banned out of YouTube. When COVID came and the lockdowns were happening, he was fucking talking about a whistleblower. Him and Sasha Stones were the only ones really banging the drum in the right way, in my idea what the right way is. Okay, there were other people like Alex Jones saying it in a different way, which was a low vibration, and it was fear filled. These two guys, Sasha Stone and David Icke, were somber, absolutely somber. Just, dude, this is what's going on. And this is what I try to also share with you guys. Don't be afraid of the shit I'm telling you. It's not to make you afraid. It's to make you get fierce. Eye of the tiger, eye on the prize. Fuck these motherfuckers. You're going to have me loop in a loosh? Fuck you. I'm going to fucking love myself until I can't even be a match to your shenanigans. That's basically what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be... This is why people have a problem with me. I'm going to be blunt. They don't like my anger, but they don't understand. Anger, toxic anger, is chaotic. You're not going anywhere. You're looping and looping and looping and bullshit. And you know what I'm talking about. I have righteous anger. And righteous anger, sometimes, once you calm into the eye of the storm of the righteous, it becomes calm. And then all the anger falls away. All you have is peace, surrender, trust, and a new alignment with spiritual, high, divine truth. Are there two gods? I don't know why I'm being asked to say this, but I'm going to say it. Yes. There's the God of the Testament, every fucking holy book. There's your God. Egoic, jealous, spiteful, a piece of shit. That's not the God that created our divine spark. Okay? David Icke calls it Lucifer, Satan. I don't give a shit. I'm not even going to call it anything because I don't want to create an egregore. What I will say is that we have the divine spark that is within us. We are a fractal of the God who created us. And that God is loving, kind, generous, protective, loyal. You get the picture, right? Has a sense of humor, funny, loving. And this entity, this creator, the all, is what we are aligning ourselves to. Hence, aka the ascension. And there is a split happening. And you've got people, I remember this cartoon when I lived in, believe it or not, I lived in the Philippines, right? When I was like 13, 14 years old. So for a while, I lived in the Philippines. This funny story. And I've been trying to find that cartoon series for the life of me. So two things were happening when I lived in the Philippines. There would be Imelda Marcos and his wife. Well, no, Imelda Marcos and whatever his name was. She was famous for having like thousands of shoes. But anyway, they would come on the TV set in the morning to greet us. Hello, great. And then the next thing was this American cartoon that was about a prepper who, note, this was in the 70s, a prepper who was always thinking that the end of the world would happen, right? It was the funniest fucking cartoon. I love that cartoon. Me and my brother would watch it because we lived there during the monsoon. It was the Holiday Inn. It was the only hotel on that strip. And we lived in that hotel. And I have great memories. I remember when we I have to tell you the story because the funniest shit story. When we checked in, they gave us each a can of Raid. A can of fucking Raid, pesticides. And I remember looking at my brother and looking at my father like, what the fuck, right? But we checked into the hotel, got into all our rooms. And before I knew it, we had fucking cockroaches the size of a man's thumb flying in the air. And we were using our Raid cans to attack them. It was fucking, they would walk down the hallway of the hotel like they fucking owned it. Anyway, why is this important? Not really, just a random story. But the cartoon had me in stitches. The cartoon was all about the end and battle down and get all your pew-pews and BBs and all of that. And this was in the 70s. So it was satire, right? But it was the mentality of people today are the same. So you've got people who are salivating for confrontation. They want it. Like they want Thunderdome in Mad Max. They actually think they're Mad Max. They actually think they look like Mad Max. Mel Gibson in his heyday with this gorgeous Tina Turner. They really think that that's the world and they want it. And you and I don't want that world. We want the new earth, the 5D. We want kumbaya. We want community. We want sharing. We want watching kids run and play and climb trees and grow our own food. That's what we want as long as we live on this planet. When we die, we don't want to be in the loosh. We want to be in other realms, in other planets. And as long as you can master these things I discussed, you're good to go. So when you die, you can drop your body and you can go through the journey of however you're going to drop your body. Some have disease, sometimes it's an impact, sometimes it's just the heart stops, whichever way you're going to go, right? Learn how to die now so that you can live, so you can breach the veils with like absolute impunity, like surrender and joy. And you might be tested and you'll go, oh, please get the fuck out of the way. Please. Are you kidding me? Get out of here. And then you move on. Does that make sense? And that kind of irreverence is going to be important. It's funny how women learn how to defend themselves, right? What do? They go to these sessions where all these women are mad as fuck or sadly they've been attacked or harmed, even worse than that. And they go to this guy that's completely like head to toe in gear, right? And they beat the shit out of him. And they start practicing how to protect themselves, okay? Well, it's funny. Okay, so I could see people doing that. Like, I don't put it down, okay? I could see like, yeah, no one's ever going to harm me again. I get it. But I find it interesting that in spirituality, we don't teach people to train themselves to ready when they're going to die. And I'm going to give you the story that my twin told me about his best friend. And on the side note, the father of my son, they both had a best friend whose name was Roy. Both of these men died from a motorcycle accident, both of them. Both Roy, both motorcycle accident deaths. But my twin's Roy was caught in a truck. And it wasn't lights over on impact. He was still alive. And he started chanting Hare Krishna. And the reason why my twin knew that is because he heard some guy saying, yeah, he's chanting some language. I don't know what it was. And he kept saying the same words again and again. And my twin knew exactly it was Hare Krishna. So he chanted Hare Krishna to put himself in the high frequency. And you could say, well, that's a dogmatic religion. And I would say, whatever he was a frequency match to. But I will give him credit. Instead of panicking and screaming, oh my God, he was chanting. And he was chanting until he was gone. Did he come back here? I don't know. Was he a frequency match to return here? I don't know. I don't know. But I do know this. He went in automatic pilot, boom. That's it. This is what I believe in. This is what I'm doing. Personally, me, I would probably go into Om. Personally, me. Or something to that effect. And I would want a chant that's about love. I am divine love. So maybe it would be Om. I am divine love. Ahom Prema. To give you like a tip. But it's funny how we don't practice. We practice dancing. We practice horseback riding. But we don't practice how we're going to die. It's crazy to me. Right? Don't you think it's crazy? And yet it's the most important thing you'll ever do in your life. Besides getting married and having kids. Or not having kids. Getting married or not getting married. Traveling the world. Or not even doing that. Just being here. Alive in the now. So practice. Ask yourself, if this was my last day on earth, what do I want to do? What would I say? How would I project myself? Practice. So you're not caught off guard going, oh, fuck. See, most people say what right before an impact? Oh, shit and oh, fuck. Can you imagine? Guard going, oh, fuck. See, most people say what right before an impact? Oh, shit and oh, fuck. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Oh, shit and oh, fuck. Not Ahom Prema. Not I am divine love. Not I deserve unconditional love. I am unconditional love. Isn't it interesting? Anyway, I hope this helped. I'll upload this video. I hope you enjoyed this live. Please share it. I think it's important for people to hear a different type of point of view. I mean, whatever point of view, read, and you don't have agree with what you read. But in all of these wonderful minds, there's nectar to be learned from. And the nectar you learn from these people will actually share with you ideas that evolve into your own downloads to say, oh, wait, hang on. He's got a point, but no. He went left and I'm going right. And this is me going through, like an evolution of this person's teachings, and now I'm evolving into my own. It's not self-confidence. It's allowing you the self-respect to say that your fucking ideas matter, and that you have something that might actually help the collective evolution of the ascension, rather than just going with whatever the fuck people are saying. I just opened this page. It's from Chant and Be Happy. It says, as I'm fated for the material world, saying, I just opened this page. It's from Chant and Be Happy. It says, as I'm fated for the material world, get frustrated into the material world. Senses never gratified, only swelling like a tide that could drown me in the material world. Did you hear that? I'm going to say it again. As I am fated for the material world, get frustrated in the material world. Senses never gratified, only swelling like a tide that could drown me in the material world. Isn't that interesting? And so that's what happens with addiction. That's what happens with us over drinking, overeating, over shopping. We get no gratification because we're trying to fill a hole that no thing in the material world can fill. This is a completely spiritual journey. And I'm fighting my own sense gratification, emptiness. You know what I mean? I'm working on it. I'm like, that's why sometimes I fast, sometimes I don't. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm coming to a realization that for me personally, I need to master my body again like I had before. I need to master my my habits, my behaviors, and those will give me unconditional self-love. There are parts of me I absolutely do offer unconditional love to. There are parts of me that still need mastering. There are many parts of me I have unconditional self-respect, where even if I need, like for example, I will say no to potential clients. I will say no. No, I'm not good for you. No, I'm not taking your bullshit. No. And I'll tell you why. It's not to make you afraid to come and work with me. It's to say that that's why I do a chat. because I don't want to incur any more debts with any human being. And if a person comes at me wrong, right, rudely, like I said, well, tell me if I have a twin flame. I mean, it's like I'm a bubblegum machine. You put a nickel in and I'm going to just pop out a bubblegum. Oh, yes, that's it. You're a twin flame. You have one out there. You know, right? I could have said that. I could have said anything to her. Oh, absolutely. I'm getting the vibration. You have a twin flame. And she would have done a reading. I can't do that. I can't do that at all. And people who can do that, I'm going to say they're part of the New Age system or the Wicca system or whatever system or the Hindu system traditions, because I've heard stories from my Hindu community that I have in my clientele list. And I can tell you some fuckery from these supposed gurus that are, they'll turn me, you'll turn red. The integrity of the spiritual journey, it has to be at your highest level, the best you can muster. That means when you start healing other people or working with people, you better, when you feel not connected to a client, a potential client, you better fucking say, no, I'm not your person. You know what? I wish you the best, but I'm not your person. I don't care if you're a doula, a Reiki master, a psychic, a hypnotherapist. Sometimes you better be honest. You're going to come across people and it should be a no. And you know that. Just like you've come to places, situations, job interviews, whatever, however, and you've sat across and you're like, yeah, that's not, I don't feel it. Yeah, that's right. You're supposed to feel it. When you feel it when I feel it with a potential client, I start laughing, giggling. We're both having a great time. We're excited to work with each other. I feel it's a soul contract that's being satisfied. They feel the same, and they have an incredible experience, because they're surrendering to this experience, whatever shows itself to them. Does that make sense? So every step you take in the journey of your heart-centered business, if you end up doing that, it doesn't matter if you're an attorney. It doesn't matter if you're a psychologist. It doesn't matter if you're doing that. It doesn't matter if you're an attorney. It doesn't matter if you're a psychologist. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor. Psychologist. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor. There are plastic surgeons. I'll tell clients, no, I'm not going to do a rhino